Hello, everyone, and welcome to a live with OKclarity.com, the live experience that will bring you clarity on intergenerational trauma, 5 secrets to breaking the cycle. Tonight's live stream will be 30 minutes long. At around the 25-minute mark, I will review and answer some of the cute questions and answers that came in via the live stream chat directly on OKclarity.com. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat anytime below. But I won't address any of them until the end, 25 minutes in. If you're joining us tonight from other social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, welcome. I won't be taking question and answers from those platforms, only from the live stream on OK Clarity directly. So feel free to head over to OKclarity.com and click to join us live at OKclarity.com if you want a chance to get your questions answered. A quick and important disclaimer. Everything discussed tonight is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and none of it is a substitute for professional mental health, wellness, medical, or financial advice. With that, let me just jump into it. My name is Benson Fox. I just actually graduated from Adelphi University's school psychology doctorate program. I'm becoming a psychologist. A degree confer will be at the end of this May. I still have the graduation things on my lawn from my wife. Thank God for her. My background is both as a life coach and now becoming a therapist, a psychotherapist. And I try to get results for my clients by helping them achieve balance, joy, and growth in their lives. And my background is also a bachelor's, a major in psychology from Touro. Worked at several public schools, at colleges, etc. All right, let's get into the content. What is the problem here tonight? The problem is that trauma gets passed down from generation to generation through lots of different ways, right? So what is intergenerational trauma, right? It's trauma passed down from generation to generation. Now, what does that sound like? How does that happen? So there's different theories, right? It could happen through little micro expressions that are done. And it could be the certain subtleties, nuances, and how a person engages in certain areas. For example, right? Let's say someone was a Holocaust survivor. And then, so they literally went through starvation. Sometimes people come from generations after that can suffer from stinginess, right? Because were they stingy? Maybe, but it could have been something more subtle, not necessarily that they were explicitly hoarding or something like that. It could have been just when they're paying someone at the cash counter, they saw that they winced when they gave the money. Or it could be that they, when they were going down the street to try to buy something, it was extra pause or extra something or some read that the child got that spending money is not something you should do so freely, and it's something that needs to be done with extreme caution. So that's what some believe. It's micro expression. Some see it as a reenactment, meaning it is something that is being done onto you, like father hits the son, then the son hits the father, son becomes father hits son becomes father hits son, right? Something like that. That's another form of it. Or, right, mother tells daughter that her body is not skinny enough. Daughter becomes mother. That mother tells her daughter that her body is not good enough unless it's as thin as a whatever. So there's a reenactment, meaning the trauma that was done on you, then you feel like this instinct or impulse to you are the bullied one, you become the bully. So that's how the trauma reenacts over generations, and the person who's the victim then turns that trauma into becoming the aggressor. Another way is just something a little more subtle, is something called the energy transfer. That the child may want to help the parent receive love from them, or things like that, where it's more of a vibe or a feeling, not necessarily even an micro expression, but something that's maybe something that is metaphysical, even that gets passed over, or something maybe on a soul level. Or, from a behavioral lens, intergenerational trauma can get passed down just simply through the behavior being modeled by the parent. Not necessarily in a micro expression. It can be a macro expression. It can be anything. Just, children are constantly absorbing from parents. It could be that what they're absorbing and observing from their parent is a trauma behavior. So that would be from a very behavioral perspective. The other ones would be a more psychodynamic type of perspective. Okay, how prevalent is intergenerational trauma? I would say it's universal, right? There's intergenerational trauma, and then there's something called intergenerational healing, meaning that trauma gets passed down from generation to generation, but one could also see a core trauma as something that requires generations to heal. So if a person goes through abuse, we classically feel that maybe I cannot heal myself completely. There's no way for me to fully heal. And that may be true, but that healing doesn't necessarily all fall on you to heal from. And it could be that as generations heal from trauma and they, through that healing, become stronger, better, more positive, etc., they also, that healing takes place over several generations. All right. So I would say, though, it is to different degrees, right? Some people can have abusive and neglectful type of trauma that they get passed down, which is more intense, severe. And then there are ones that it can be, that could, impair functionality to a lesser degree. Meaning, let's say a person, stinginess, for example, it may not impact someone as much as neglect, or someone being hit, or etc. So, and the idea is, the reason why it's universal is because we give it, as we said before, children absorb everything, the good, the bad. They don't necessarily have the filter to just take the good that we so hope that they do. We pass on the good or bad. We give what we are, and we are good in some ways we are not as healed as we would like to be, and we're going to give over those wounds, etc. Again, so we give over who we are. We don't give over not nearly as much as what we say, right? Kids look at it like this, blah, blah, blah. Some things that we say they will listen to, and they do give us more credibility than they'll pretend that they don't listen to us, but over time, they actually do take our words seriously. But the truth is that the thing they take most seriously will always be how what you do, what you say, what you are, not what you say, what you are, what you do, not what you say. So I would say it's a universal problem. We all deal with it to differing degrees. Why is this topic is important to me? Is because imagine listen, I just had my first son, so for me it's not imagination. For me it's just the real life. But imagine you're gonna have your first son. Mazel tov! Everyone's how happy. You envision a life where you give your baby only the best chance at life. Right? You want to give it only the good, only the best. The best is not good enough. You want even better and better and better. Parent book after parent book, because there's nothing that is enough. There's nothing that is more perfect for your perfect child. Nothing is perfect enough. But then, since you don't deal with what you need to deal with, your stuff, if you want to call it, your baggage, your wounds, your traumas, whatever you want to call there's like your internal misery. And then because you didn't deal with your stuff, you say you're willing to do anything for your child except for deal with your own pain, and except for heal, except for to process and address what needs to be faced head on. And then imagine that now you see your child and they have all the same problems that you do. Imagine if you could see that as a future, right when the baby's born. Can you imagine that if anyone who would not have the motivation to go through whatever therapy or deal with whatever they need to, even internally through religion, through whatever, just get rid of it, just figure it out, because you need to figure it out for the kid. I think that's why this topic is so important, because if we understand that intergenerational trauma is inevitable and it's universal, then we can then start to approach this in a way where we can understand that the best way forward it's so critical for us to heal and to give our children the best chance at life, and which parent can in good conscience say to the child, I'm giving you the best chance in life, and knowing how wounded and the insecurities, etc., that they carry, when the correct approach would be to absorb, whatever needs to be done. You deal with the pain. Don't make your child have to go through it. You heal so that your child will have to heal to a degree, no matter what, but to the degree that you do is less, the child will suffer less and will be less negatively affected by the bad that you have, and obviously there's usually more good than bad, but the point is we want to do the best for our child. This should be true in terms of our own process of healing. Okay, so that's the problem. It's inevitable. It's universal. Great. And yes, I'm very motivated to deal with this. I don't want my kids to have to deal with all my issues, or deal with them at least less, right? So what do we do about it? All right. All right. So I'm going to offer you here today 5 key secrets, right? That was the topic. We're going to try to deliver on that. What are the 5 key secrets to breaking the cycle? How do we break this cycle? It's so sad that the trauma gets passed down. How do we break it? How do we do this intergenerational healing? Or heal so much that we could even make it now there's intergenerational growth, and then we could move on from this core trauma. So secret number 1, self-awareness. You got to bring things from, as Freud said, from the unconscious to the conscious. The more things go from the unconscious to the conscious, the more agency you have, the more control you have over your life, right? The more bechira you have, you're more likely to not make the same mistakes through just sheerly your own willpower that you're bringing to the table. That alone can offer a tremendous amount of control and agency over your life. And that's really important. And self-awareness means you have to be open to hearing feedback from others. You need to engage, have moments of self-reflection and introspection. You need to have mentors who you turn to, friends who will give you the honest truth. And just be open to hearing things that are uncomfortable. Have an internal gauge, this internal wisdom, truth meter to see if it's true. And if it is, to slowly try to accept the truths for yourself and bring them into your awareness. And to the degree you do, it gives you a lot more control. So that way, if you feel yourself being pulled towards reenacting a trauma, so to speak, or doing bad modeling for your children, you're able to pause and through your sheer willpower and say, I'm not going to repeat the patterns. I'm not going to be like my parent in the ways that I don't want to be. I'm only going to try to take what they did right and leave behind what the unhealthy parts, the toxic aspects. Number 1, self-awareness. Secret number 1. Secret number 2, processing the trauma. So processing is a term that I think we all understand is a bit amorphous, if you will. It's a bit intangible. People use the word, you got to process it. What does that mean to process it? So there's different ways that people say what processing means. Some say it just means if you just engage in the process of learning from the mistakes on that level. So let's say a person got bullied, right? Learning the mistakes means, okay, I need to be more confident. I need to get stronger. I need to learn how to fight. I need to, be more assertive, etc. So those could be the lessons of getting bullied, or I need to learn to communicate or get help when I'm in need of help, or I don't need to face things alone, etc. So there could be lessons to be learned from a person's past that person has yet to learn. So just simply learning those lessons could be called processing. Others consider processing to be more of a experiential process, not this kind of cognitive, intellectual process of learning. They say you need to feel and need to experience all aspects of the trauma. Your body needs to feel it. Your emotions. Where did you feel that in your body? Your cheeks felt flush. Your wrist, your hand was clenched. Your fist was clenched. What were you thinking? What were you feeling, etc. You want to gain all aspects of that experience, and that can help a person move on from their traumas, and not just move on from them, but to integrate them and grow from them, etc., and become better through them. And then when a person processes that, they feel everything they're supposed to feel, think everything they're supposed to think, know where it is in their body, etc., then the trauma is released from one's body. But one important note, again, we mentioned this in the last live, is that part of processing trauma is not just going to be supposed to be about the negative aspects. Many ways, it's the positive aspects as well, need to be mentioned as well. Meaning that oftentimes, let's say a person gets bullied, there's a positive aspects to being bullied too. The person gets that tension, right? They're not alone anymore. They're at least part of a group in some sense. They may enjoy the association with the cooler kids, even if it's at this distance or even at the lowest rung of the ladder. They are at least on the ladder. So that may be that people many times when they're processing a trauma, they leave out the core aspects, the positive aspects, because the positive aspects in many ways are the parts we're most ashamed of. Those are the parts of ourselves we've most disowned, we've exiled, we've cast away. So those are the parts that we need to process. And when we do, then we're able to move on from it. So again, processing the trauma, I think that the self-awareness gives you a sense of control and agency. I would say processing the trauma reduces how much of a hold it has on you. So the agency will be, you're trying to overwhelm whatever this force in you that pulls you towards it. processing the trauma will help reduce how much that pressure, internal pressure you have of reenacting and repeating the cycle. And that way we can help break it. That was process number 2. Secret number 2 is processing the trauma. Secret number 3 is many times when people are carrying trauma, in order to stop reenacting it, you have to also stop receiving the trauma energy. What does that mean? You need to start learning what healthiness in this area looks like, right? If a person's raised in a toxic home, they need to start eating out by Shabbos meals at very healthy homes. They need to engage in ways that are wholesome and just witness and observe people who are much healthier in these areas. So, whether from Shabbos meals or it could just be going to a friend's house or etc. You need to see healthiness to be able to even know what it is you're trying to be like. That's just a really important point when it comes to, so part of it is just seeing what healthiness looks like, but part of it is stop receiving the trauma. What does that mean to stop receiving it? Meaning you got to, let's say a person has an unhealthy, let's say a very codependent relationship with a parent. You have to be able to start creating boundaries. Maybe move out of the house, create your own space, create your own finances, rewrite the relationship contract. When a person's usually in their 20s or teenager time, that's a good time for a person to rewrite the relationship. If even a person's not in their teenager 20s, but in their 30s, 40s, 50s, better late than never. And a person should kind of redefine for the world, for the different people in their lives, what is an acceptable way of engaging with it? What is tolerable? And if they violate that boundary, it needs to be enforced. So part of it is through boundary setting. You need to learning healthiness from observing homes and friends who are healthier in that way. And I think just by stopping the traumatic process of witnessing healthiness, that can help a person, again, take away from the hold that it has on you, and also kind of gives you a hope and a focus and attention that draws you to a place of this distant land where there is this happy, healthy future for yourself or your children. So I think that's what the secret number 3 of stop receiving the trauma energy and also start learning what healthiness looks like. I'm kind of combining those into one secret. So you got 2 for the price of 1 tonight. All right. Number 4. When it comes to intergenerational trauma, people think that it will always look the same way, right? And it can be, as we said, the first example that we gave, right? Father hits son, son becomes father, father hits son. So that's intergenerational trauma. They're all doing the same thing. But many times intergenerational trauma, the way that trauma looks like, the core trauma will have different reverberations throughout the generations and can look like polarization. For example, right? Let's say you have the first generation after the Holocaust, they're super stingy. Now their kids are like, I hated the fact my parents refused to spend any money, or they winced or cringed when they had to spend money, or they're running around with sales, everything, CVS coupons, whatever it is. And what do they do for their children? They say, whatever you want, we'll spend it. They spoil their kids. So from one extreme of extreme stinginess, which gives a child a sense of deprivation, the sense of spoiling, and then there's no gratitude, there's no appreciation. Their sense of value for life, or their sense of what it means to live in this world, has become degraded, and everything becomes a sense of entitlement, etc., etc., etc. None of these things are good, right? Not good at all. So this is a polarization. Polarization means you go from one extreme to another. In that sense, the trauma is still controlling you, but instead of kind of swinging to one side of the pendulum, you have swung to the other side. In that sense, the trauma is still controlling your life, and you're still passing on the trauma, because then your kids, they'll be like, I hated the fact that my parents spoiled me. I'm going to be super tough with my kids. Right? I'm going to be super strict. It's going to be like a military camp in my house, right? They're not going to grow up soft. They're not going to, feel entitled. So do you see what's happening here? It's going from one stinginess, swinging to spoiling the kids, which is swinging to a military camp. Then the next generation's like, oh, my parents were so tough to me. They were so cold. I'm going to be super warm to my kids. I'm going to be so lovey-dovey. Do you see? And then it goes one back and forth. But what's happening is the core trauma is being passed down generation to generation. Its manifestation, its actualization, its communication is looking differently in each generation. Each generation is being carried differently. So it could happen, father hits son, son becomes father, he hits son. It can happen like that. And it can also happen in a way of like, where it's a polarization. It swings from one end to the other. So I would just implore you that this secret is avoid the polarization effect. Polarization, the reason why I'm saying this as a secret for breaking the cycle, because many people think they're breaking the cycle by swinging to the other extreme. No, you are carrying the burden, and the child will feel that burden, and then their burden will be, that burden's passed on from generation to generation. Just how they cope with that burden. One copes with it through frugality, and one does it through spoiling. And one does it through toughness, and one does it through too much softness. One does it with too many boundaries, and one does it with too few. So we need to learn balance, and that's so much of what I try to give over to my clients, is a sense of balance, and that's what we're going for. We're going for healthier. So looking for a sense of not having your traumas control your life, not swinging from one extreme to another. It's to create healthiness and making decisions what's best for you, what's healthy to do, what's best for your child. So secret number 4 was avoid polarization. Secret number 5 is take responsibility. Because you could always point your fingers and say, this was because my mother did this to me, this is because my father did this to me, this is because my sibling bullied me, or my kid in school bullied me, or the teacher yelled at me, or this because my class ostracized me, or whatever it is. You could always point fingers, and you know what? You just may be right, that as a child, you didn't have the skills to cope with it, you were all alone, and you didn't deal with it in the best way, and that's why you have it all figured out. You're a great psychoanalyst, right? You're very self-perceptive. You figure out that this is what's going on, and that's the core issue. You need to, at the end of the day, breaking the cycle means taking responsibility and willing to take the hit of like feeling that pain, feeling that burden without having to pass it on to the next generation. Take responsibility and say, you know what? This is what it was, and now I'm going to process it. I'm going to take the hit. I'm going to learn whatever I need to learn about myself so the next generation doesn't have it. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get myself there. I'm going to look for solutions. I'm not going to look for more people to blame. There's always people to blame. That's not the focus. Because if you just become a part of this process and you understand why it's happening, but then you engage in the same behavior, you are equally complicit, and you know how it feels to be carrying that trauma. So now when you're in a position of power, you can cast it off to your child. There's nothing more selfish than that. You don't become equally complicit. Break the cycle. The cycle could start and reverse with you and become a process of intergenerational healing. So yes, you cannot fully heal. And it's endless. So someone could say, what's the point? No, to the degree that you do heal, that is the degree that your child will suffer less and grow better and have a happier and healthy childhood. And you know what? That just may make the difference if they have depression, anxiety, etc., or if they kind of figure out a way to get through life happier and healthier and kind of be on that end of the spectrum. They don't get broken from their adversity. But it's going to cost too much to deal with my trauma. I'm in college. I have a job. I have this. I have that. I'll promise you from this. Yes, it will take away from your functionality in the short term, and it will make you a little bit more miserable now, and it hurts. But I promise you this, it is worth it. Whatever price you're paying for it, it will be worth it, because even if you have one less burden you give over to your child will have that much more of creating an intergenerational process of growth, happiness, healthiness, connection to themselves, their family, their friends, and love towards Hashem as well. So healing is intergenerational, happens on a continuum. Your child will still suffer from your brokenness, but its effects will be less. You're not eliminating them, you're mitigating them. It's worth it as long as you're maintaining functionality, right? You still need to maintain your basic functionality. It's okay if it's reduced, but don't throw it out. It's like a surgery. You're going to have to recover from it, etc. But at the end of the day, the surgery is worth it because you're taking out a key core toxic element to your psyche, and making it less of an issue for your child. Imagine if you take away even just one trauma. The effects are endless. The effects are deep. The effects are vast. All right. Anyone who have any questions on the Instagram Live or on OKclarity.com, please throw them out now. If not, then we will. I'll give about 15 seconds for people to throw out any comments or questions right now that you have on the Instagram. You could post it right now. And if another 10 seconds, I'm going to shift to just my concluding wrap up, so that anyone who came towards the end, that they can kind of get the gist of all 5 secrets, and we could just do a quick roundup. I'm just going to give another few seconds. If anyone has any questions or any comments or any feedback at all, they could just post it in the chat right now here on the Instagram. Any feedback? All right. Give it another 2 seconds. All right. Let's do a quick wrap up here. I hope tonight's conversation provided some clarity on intergenerational trauma, the 5 secrets to breaking the cycle. I want you to walk away with that to get control of your trauma, you need to get more self-awareness. That was secret one, number 1. Secret number 2, process the trauma, right? We said body, thoughts, feelings, emotions, learning from it, the mistakes. Number 3, avoid polarization. Don't go from being the tough parent to the soft parent, from the spoiling parent to the stingy parent, and swing back and forth, right? Trauma could affect us and manifest itself differently in each generation. Take responsibility for yourself. Understand that it is inevitable you'll pass it on, but understand that you could be part of that intergenerational process of healing or making it worse as generations go on, unfortunately. So those are the key points to take away. Those are my 5 secrets I have for you tonight. And thank you for being here. I look forward to spending time with you all very soon. And listen, if you want to reach out via OKclarity, go to via OKclarity.com and go to, you could see my name and you could reach out there for myself. My name is Benson Fox. Again, I'm a life coach and PsyD candidate. And thank you for being here today. And I look forward to spending time with you all very, very soon. Thank you, everyone.